All right, let's jump into this translation right here. So going off of Knox 1, Knox 2, they're still building the Arch of Titus. And let's notice something interesting here. This verb, the sentence, very first sentence is starting with the verb, showing that you don't always have to have the verb at the very end of the sentence. We also have been talking about how you can get 2, 3, 4 verbs for the price of 1 if you know the root verb, in this case, erat and perfect form sum, plus that prefix pri being in front of or before. So pri erat is to be in charge of, and that makes pretty good sense. We have in English the word foreman, and for like before, you're in front of a group of people, and therefore you're in charge of it. So let's see. Subject of this verb is Quintus Haterius Latronianus. And then we have a little phrase here, which is an apposition describing what he is. And this is Quintus Haterius Latronianus, very notable, exceedingly notable, or famous Redemptor builder. Pri erat was in charge, and then pri sum takes a dative object. Huic operi, so both huic and operi are dative. Putting it all together, Quintus Haterius Latronianus, a very famous builder, was in charge of this work. Next sentence, ea nocte. Ea nocte is an ablative of time. In original Latin, you probably wouldn't see ea nocte unless the previous sentence had been describing a night. I think that most likely you would have seen illa nocte, but we'll just leave that alone right there. That night, ipse, subject, he himself, furens, present active participle, raging, so he's angry, incitabat. So incitabat, the definition for it is urging on or encouraging. In this case, he's cracking the whip because he wants the workmen to work more quickly. So he is urging on the fabros, the workers. So altogether, that night, he himself raging was urging on the workers. Aderat, same thing. Ad sum, we've seen this verb a lot. To be present. So the subject is Gaius Salvius Liberalis. We have a appositional phrase right here and a qui clause, all describing Gaius Salvius Liberalis. So Gaius Salvius Liberalis, patronus Haterii, so the patron of Haterius. Haterius is Haterii right there is a genitive. We'll talk more about the patron-client relationship later. Very important though. Who in vicem, in turn, this is an adverbial accusative. So sometimes we will see accusative forms that are used adverbially. So who in turn, incitabat, was urging on him, him referring back to Haterius, ut being a purpose clause, he's urging him on in order to perfeceret, to complete the opus. Opus obviously is a fourth declension neuter right there. The work ante lucem, before morning. Going all the way back to the main verb, the indicative verb of this sentence, quoque aderat, also was present. So we could translate left to right. Also present was Gaius Lucius Liberalis, patron of Haterius, who was urging him in turn to complete the work before morning. Next sentence, anxius enem erat Salvius, quod imperatore persuaserat ut Haterium opere perfeceret. So, Salvius, we'll just translate Salvius first because that sounds more natural in English. Salvius, for Salvius, erat, in perfect form sum, was anxious, quod, because, persuaserat, he had persuaded the emperor. Persuasit takes a dative, imperatori is dative. Because he had persuaded the emperor, purpose clause, in order to praeficeret, and we see again praefacio, to make in charge of. He had persuaded the emperor to make Haterius in charge of the work. Praeficio also takes a dative, probably of an indirect object right there. So putting it all together, Salvius was anxious because he had persuaded the emperor to make Haterius in charge of the work. You notice that you have to sort of massage the English a little bit to make it work. There's no one-to-one equivalency when you get to this level of Latin, and it only gets worse. Well, not worse. It gets more interesting, in my opinion, but the Latin will get harder the further on we go. Okay, so hic igitur fabris. This is interesting right here in this next sentence. Hic is the subject, this guy. Igitur, therefore, and then fabris is, well, it's not the direct object. It is the object that's coming off of imperave, which is the main verb. And impero takes a dative. So this guy, therefore, was ordered, perfect tense, this guy ordered the workers, dative object, ordered the workers, negative purpose clause, not desisterent, to cease labore, from work. So it's an ablative of separation. Quamquam, although errant, they were feci omino, entirely worn out. Omino is an adverb, although it probably comes from an ablative form. So let us put that all together. This guy therefore ordered the workers, although they were entirely worn out, not to cease from labor. Oh, and idetum is repeatedly. It's another adverbial accusative modifying imperavit. Glittus magister fabrorum. So we have yet another phrase that is an apposition to the subject glittus. So the glittus, the master of the workers, genitive plural. Temptabat was attempting lenire, to soften, to calm down, to soothe Haterius, accusative direct object of that infinitive. He says, Ecce domine, look, master. So we have, this is in the evocative, Fabri iam arcum paene proficunt. The workers now are nearly completed, have nearly completed the arch. Paene is an adverb right there. Ultimae literae tituli nunc inscribuntur. So now the last letters of the title, genitive, of the inscription are being inscribed. Ultima figurae sculpuntur. The last figures, the last carvings, are being carved. Ultimae mamoris massae ad summum arcum toluntur. The last block of marble. So last blocks, nominative, plural, first declension feminine, last blocks of marble, genitive, ad summum arcum, to the top of the arch. Arcum was obviously an accusative to go with ad and summum, but we're going to translate it as a genitive of, are being lifted. So the last blocks of marble are being lifted to the top of the arch. Notice that these three are all passive voice verbs. Paulo ante orum primum. So at a little before ante, the primum orum, the first hour, the fabri, the workers, confecti labore, so perfect passive participle, having been exhausted, labore, by labor. This is an ablative of means there. So the workers, having been exhausted by labor, profecunt arcum, finished the arch. Paulisper, for a little time, for a short time, another adverb. Urps silebat. The city was silent. Unus faber, tamen, domum forum ridiens, subito tristes fignarum duarum clamores adiuit. So one worker, however, that's our subject, and then we've got a participial phrase describing him, returning home through the form, accusative extent. Subito, all of a sudden, suddenly, adverb, audiuit, heard, the tristes clamores. Notice that tristes and clamores, tristes is modifying the clamores, it's the direct object of audiuit, and nested between the noun and its adjective are two genitives that are describing it, describing whose shouts these are. So he heard the sad shouts of two women, right? And then for NM, do I, captivi, so for two captives, affecti dolore magno, so another participial phrase here, having been affected, having been overcome by great sadness, another ablative of means or manner right there. Cantabant, we're singing, in carcere, in the prison. Mi Dios, my God, respice me. So look to me. It's a imperative right there. Look upon me. Quare, so this is an interrogative right there, but it literally means by what reason, by what thing. Qua is an ablative, and re is from res rem. For what reason? Why? Me deseruisti, perfect tense. Why have you deserted me? Now this is a callback. This is a callback having been written in the 1970s by people who were very familiar with biblical texts. It's a callback to the cry of Christ on the cross of my God, why have you forsaken me? The history of this is that this is the Arch of Titus. It was constructed, I think, in 81 AD. This is after the destruction of the temple in AD 79. Now, long story short, there was a Jewish revolt. It's a bloody, horrible event that you can read all about in Josephus' Jewish War. But Vespasian and Titus essentially destroyed Jerusalem and the temple. The Wailing Wall is the only thing that was left that's still standing. And all the spoils from the temple they used to build things in Rome, including the Circus Maximus and the Colosseum, if I remember correctly. One of the two. Don't quote me on that. I know one of them was built with the money. And also this Arch of Titus, which commemorates the putting down of the Jewish revolt. Anyway, very interesting passage. If you have any questions, email me, let me know. Otherwise, I will talk to you later.